Tamela Mann, gospel royalty, stood tall in a courthouse packed with reporters, fans, and flashing cameras, ready to expose the truth about her husband, David Mann, and the woman who tore their family apart, Jackie Walters, the celebrity therapist who went from fixing marriages to fracturing one. This is a story of heartbreak, deception, and a woman who refused to stay silent. Trust me, you're not ready for how this unfolds. For decades, Tamela and David Mann were the couple everyone envied. They built an empire on faith, music, and family, their voices blending in gospel hits that filled churches and arenas alike. From their roles in Tyler Perry's plays to their chart-topping albums, they were the picture of Black love and resilience. Fans called them the first family of gospel, a beacon of hope in an industry where scandals often overshadow success. They raised kids together, shared stages, and preached about trust in God and each other, their smiles lighting up red carpets and TV screens. Tamela's voice, rich and soulful, carried songs like Take Me to the King to millions, while David's charm and humor made him a fan favorite in shows like Meet the Browns. Together, they were unstoppable, a symbol of what love could endure. But behind the sold-out shows and Instagram posts, something was breaking. Whispers started circling. David was pulling away, spending late nights working, coming home with excuses that didn't add up. Tamela poured her heart into her music and her kids, but close friends noticed her spark dimming, her laughter quieter. No one could have predicted the storm brewing, or who was waiting in the shadows to change everything. That shadow had a name, Dr. Jackie Walters, the polished, charismatic star of Married to Medicine. Known for her soothing therapy sessions and marriage advice, she was the go-to expert for couples in crisis. Her warm smile and calm demeanor made her a trusted voice, dishing out wisdom on national TV. Tamela and David turned to her when their marriage hit a rough patch, hoping to rebuild what felt broken. But rumors, and let me be clear, these are unverified, suggest something else was happening behind those closed doors. Reports claim Dr. Jackie and David started crossing lines during those sessions. What began as professional advice allegedly turned into late-night texts, secret lunches, and meetings that had nothing to do with counseling. Blogs buzzed with whispers of David's special connection with the therapist, hinting at stolen glances and private calls. Fans were stunned when the first hints of an affair surfaced online, with anonymous posts on X claiming David was spending more time with Dr. Jackie than at home. Tamela, blindsided, reportedly found out the hard way. A text message she wasn't meant to see, lighting up David's phone in the middle of the night. Her world shattered, but what started as a private betrayal was about to explode in front of the world. Picture a courthouse buzzing with tension, reporters jostling for a glimpse, cameras flashing like a lightning storm. Tamela Mann walked through those double doors, no entourage, no glam, just a woman carrying heartbreak and fire in her eyes. Every step she took screamed strength, but you could feel the pain radiating from her, a quiet fury that silenced the room. This wasn't just a divorce hearing. It was a moment the world would never forget. His usual charisma was gone, replaced by a man who couldn't meet his wife's gaze. Next to him, Jackie Walters. Her TV-ready smile vanished, her eyes darting from the cameras to the crowd, knowing judgment was coming. The judge's gavel dropped, and the ruling came fast. Divorce finalized. Assets split 70-30 in Tamela's favor. Full custody of their minor children awarded to her. The crowd murmured. Reporters scribbled furiously. But Tamela wasn't there to just win a case. She was there to reclaim her life, and she was about to make sure everyone knew it. She rose from her seat, her hands steady but her voice trembling with a fury that could have shaken the walls. Tamela walked to the podium, looked straight at David, and let the truth pour out like a gospel song turned battle cry. "You didn't just cheat on me," she said, her words slicing through the silence. "You betrayed our kids, our faith, our God. You didn't fall in love, David. You fell for a lie wearing a therapist's mask." The courtroom gasped, a collective intake of breath that echoed like thunder. Dr. Jackie's lips quivered, her hands clenched in her lap, but she stayed silent, her polished image crumbling under the weight of Tamela's words. Tamela turned to the reporters, her voice rising with a fire that demanded the world listen. "He called me his queen, but behind my back he handed my crown to a woman who destroys marriages while pretending to fix them." Cameras clicked furiously, capturing a moment that was already going viral. Then came the gut punch. Tamela pulled an old wedding photo from her purse, held it up for the world to see, her and David, young, smiling, full of hope, and said, "This was us before the lies, before the fame, before her." She dropped it to the floor, the sound echoing like a gunshot through the room. David's face turned ghost white. Dr. Jackie looked like she wanted to disappear. The internet exploded. Justice for Tamela trended worldwide. TikTokers reenacted her speech, and fans dubbed her Queen Tamela as clips racked up millions of views. But the world wasn't ready for what came next. Just when the courtroom thought it had seen it all, Tamela's legal team dropped a bombshell that sent shockwaves through the room. An audio file, allegedly recorded in Dr. Jackie's office during a so-called counseling session, was played for everyone to hear. David's voice filled the space, calm and chilling, each word a dagger. "I can't leave Tamela now. It'd ruin my reputation. But Jackie, what we have is real. You make me feel alive." Gasps rippled through the crowd, a wave of disbelief that hit like a tidal wave. Tamela didn't flinch. She'd already lived this pain, carried it in her heart for months while smiling for the cameras. Jackie's eyes widened, a flash of panic crossing her face as she realized someone, maybe even her own staff, had betrayed her. The audio, unverified but devastating, painted a picture of a man plotting a double life while his wife fought to save their marriage. Twitter lit up with hashtags like #David the Deceiver, fans demanding answers, and clips of the audio spreading like wildfire across X and YouTube. But if you thought the audio was the end, the real scandal was just beginning. Tamela's lawyers pushed forward, presenting financial records that turned the courtroom into chaos. Over $300,000 had been transferred from the Mann family trust to Dr. Jackie's clinic, disguised as payments under Tamela's name without her knowledge. Fans screamed from the gallery, reporters shouted questions, and Tamela's gasp echoed above it all, her hands gripping the table as the truth sank in. This wasn't just an affair. It was a calculated scheme that robbed her of her dignity and her family's future. And then came the whispers, unconfirmed but explosive, spreading through blogs and X posts. Sources claimed Dr. Jackie had been pregnant twice during the affair, one ending in loss, another allegedly terminated at David's urging to protect his public image. Dr. Jackie stood, her voice steady but desperate, addressing the court for the first time. "I never meant to hurt Tamela," she said, her words barely audible over the crowd's murmurs. "David promised me a future. I didn't know the money was stolen. True or not, the damage was done." Tamela's team filed a motion to seize David's assets, citing possible embezzlement and fraud. The judge's face hardened. This wasn't just a divorce anymore. It was a potential criminal case, and the world was watching every second. The courtroom was still reeling from the financial bombshell. $300,000 siphoned from the Mann family trust to Dr. Jackie's clinic, disguised as payments under Tamela's name. Fans in the gallery were shouting, reporters were scrambling to get the story out, and Tamela's gasp lingered in the air, her hands gripping the table as the truth hit like a freight train. This wasn't just about broken vows anymore. It was about a calculated scheme that stole her peace, her trust, and her family's future. Dr. Jackie's desperate plea, claiming she didn't know the money was stolen, hung in the air, but it did little to calm the storm. The judge's face hardened, his gavel poised, as Tamela's legal team pushed for more. A motion to freeze David's assets pending a criminal investigation into embezzlement and fraud. The word criminal echoed like a thunderclap, and the room felt like it might implode. But if you thought the drama had peaked, you weren't ready for what came next. David Mann, the man who once charmed audiences with his gospel anthems and quick wit, stood up without being called. His lawyer's eyes widened, whispering frantically for him to sit down. But David shook his head. He walked to the front of the courtroom. No notes, no script, just a microphone and a man unraveling under the weight of his own choices. "Your Honor," he began, his voice shaking, barely above a whisper. "I need to speak." The judge hesitated. Tamela's lawyers objected, but the room fell silent, every eye locked on him. David looked out at the crowd, reporters, fans, his own daughter glaring from the back, and then at Tamela, whose face was a mix of pain and steel. "I never meant for this to happen," he said, his words stumbling. "I was lost. I felt unseen. Tamela was always touring, always shining, and I was fading. Jackie listened. She made me feel like I mattered again." The courtroom was so quiet you could hear hearts breaking. "I crossed lines," he admitted, his voice cracking. "I betrayed vows. I destroyed a good woman's trust. I don't deserve forgiveness, but I'm asking for understanding." The silence broke like glass. Tamela stood, her entire body trembling but her voice fierce, cutting through his words like a blade. "Understanding?" she said, stepping forward, her eyes locked on his. "Where was your understanding when I cried myself to sleep, wondering why you wouldn't touch me? Where was it when I begged for counseling and you told me I was overreacting? Don't stand there and paint this as a moment of weakness, David. You built this lie, one kiss, one secret, one choice at a time." Her voice never broke, but tears welled in her eyes, and even the hardest reporters in the room were visibly shaken. "You weren't lost," she said, her words a final blow. "You were gone." The crowd erupted, some cheering for Tamela's strength, others shouting at David, and security had to step in to keep the chaos from spilling over. Tamela's oldest daughter, Tia, was caught on a hot mic in the hallway, her voice raw with anger. "You didn't just betray Mom, you broke all of us." Reporters swarmed, TMZ went live, and Twitter exploded with hashtags like #Tamela fights back and David is done. But Tamela wasn't done yet. She had one more move to make sure the world knew her truth. The judge, sensing the room was spiraling, banged his gavel and called for order. He turned to the court clerk, who read the final decree. On grounds of irreconcilable betrayal and documented emotional distress, the marriage of Tamela and David Mann is hereby dissolved. Custodial assets awarded to Tamela Mann. All shared properties seized and redistributed. David Mann's accounts frozen pending further investigation. The words hit like a sledgehammer. The Mann marriage, once a symbol of Black love and gospel unity, was over. David sat down, his face blank, a man undone by his own secrets. Dr. Jackie slipped out a side door, her face hidden behind oversized sunglasses. But the paparazzi were waiting, snapping photos that would later go viral with captions like, "The therapist who broke the gospel queen." Outside, the courthouse steps were a circus. Fans waving signs reading "Tamela deserved better," bloggers live streaming, and activists calling for accountability. But Tamela didn't shrink from the chaos. She stepped out into the flashing cameras, her head high, her eyes dry, clutching a handwritten press release that would change everything. "I'm not broken," she declared to the crowd, her voice steady and powerful. "I'm reborn." She handed her statement to the nearest reporter, who read it aloud as cameras rolled. "To every woman who stayed silent while loving someone who destroyed her, this is your sign to stop surviving and start reclaiming." The crowd roared, a wave of cheers that shook the steps. Fans wept, strangers hugged, and social media lit up like a wildfire. Fiker Tamela Strikes Back trended worldwide within minutes, with TikTokers turning her speech into empowerment anthems and YouTubers dubbing her Queen Tamela. Her gospel songs like "Take Me to the King" climbed the charts as fans remixed them with messages of strength, racking up millions of streams. Even Beyoncé's fan base jumped in, calling Tamela's courtroom moment the most powerful divorce story since Lemonade. But behind the viral clips and hashtags was a darker truth that kept the internet buzzing, because this wasn't just about a broken marriage anymore. As Tamela stood on those courthouse steps, the world was already digging deeper. X posts and blogs started circulating unverified claims from a former deacon at David's church, alleging inappropriate prayer counseling sessions that blurred the lines between pastoral duty and manipulation. The timing was brutal, piling onto David's crumbling reputation. Gospel radio stations, once the man's biggest cheerleaders, aired emergency segments on moral accountability, with callers debating whether David could ever redeem himself. His sponsors began pulling out. One call from a gospel network rep said it best: "We can't sell redemption if you've buried the truth." Netflix quietly shelved a planned show featuring the Manns, and their upcoming Gospel Music Awards appearance was canceled. Dr. Jackie, meanwhile, faced her own reckoning. Her clinic's website went offline, and unconfirmed reports claimed her medical license was under review by the state board. A viral photo of her leaving the courthouse, head bowed, became a meme with captions like, "When your therapy destroys a queen." But the real gut punch came hours later, when a video leaked, not from the courtroom, but from one of Dr. Jackie's former staff members. The video posted on Instagram Live was shaky but explosive. The staff member, tearful and nervous, claimed Dr. Jackie and David had been involved for over 3 years, longer than anyone suspected. She alleged, though unverified, that Dr. Jackie had been pregnant twice during the affair, one ending in loss, another terminated because David begged her to protect his image. The internet lost its mind. Fans flooded X with the Mann fraud and Jackie money trail, demanding justice. Pastors from major churches issued statements distancing themselves from David, and Tamela's fans were livid, flooding her comments with support. "If Tamela can walk away and still sing, so can I," one fan tweeted, sparking a wave of women sharing their own stories of betrayal under Friar Tamela inspired. The video of Tamela's courtroom speech, especially her final words, "This is my last tear, David. The rest of your life will cry for me," hit 10 million views in less than 6 hours, becoming one of the most watched gospel-related clips in YouTube history. But Tamela wasn't watching the numbers. She was already moving forward, turning pain into power in a way nobody saw coming. That same night, while the world was still reeling, Tamela went live on Instagram. No makeup, no filter, just raw honesty in a dimly lit room. "I ain't perfect," she said, her voice soft but unshakable. "But I'm free and God is still good." Millions tuned in, their comments flooding the screen with hearts and prayers. She spoke about betrayal, about the nights she questioned herself, about the strength it took to stand up in that courtroom. Then she dropped a bombshell of her own. A new album, Unshakable, was in the works, with a lead single called Lie No More. "It's inspired by pain," she said, "but driven by truth." The livestream became the most viewed gospel-related broadcast in YouTube history, with fans calling it a sermon in itself. Within days, Lie No More hit #1 on iTunes, its lyrics a raw reflection of Tamela's journey from heartbreak to healing. And just when you thought she'd said it all, Tamela hinted at more to come. Something her lawyers were holding close, something that could shake the story even further.